Thank you very much for being here with me this morning. My name is Jurcso. That also explains those funny little lines above certain characters of my name. I'm Hungarian, and I'm living in Geneva, Switzerland for the last 25 years, working for CERN. And today I would like to use the opportunity to explain a bit how we are using hexagon EAM and what are the things that could be eventually interesting and useful for you too. Concerning my background, I'm originally a mechanical engineer with some extras in the direction of automation of productions, quality engineering. But it was a long time until in my CERN career in the first time to see a work order. That was roughly 13 years ago. And in the last 8 years, I was really concentrating on EAM and everything around it. But probably the first question is, what is CERN? Have you ever heard this word? Yes. Some people, yes. Some say shaking head. So, CERN is the world's largest particle physics laboratory. And it was founded after the Second World War as a sign for the collaboration between the European countries. That was the moment when everything went away. Physicists moved to the US, and they wanted to ensure that they have a center of excellence in Europe. Our mission to help the scientists and ensure that they have the necessary infrastructure to do what they have to do to understand the building blocks of our nature and understand how our universe is working. We are building enormous machines to ensure that the physicists have the opportunity to do the research, and we can only do it with collaboration. We have, at the peak time, over 10,000 people on our sites. We are having 23 member states, and we have over 80 countries around the world which are collaborating with us. And what we do? It's very simple. As you can understand for the first row of the slide, probably this is where your physics nightmare started in secondary school. But if we are concentrating just to the middle, we are doing incredible energies for the physicists to look into the infinitely small. You know the formula, we are transforming energy into matter, and we are transforming matter into energy. And I'm speaking about incredible levels. 7 tera electron volt. Anybody can feel how large is this energy? This energy is exactly the flying energy of a single mosquito. And for that we have the world's largest machine. But the difference that when I'm taking a mosquito, I will compress the energy of a mosquito into a single proton. And while the mosquito has 10 on the power 23, we are having only a single one in our case. So it's an enormous compression of energy. And for that, we need a very large machine. We are operating really the largest continuous physical infrastructure for any kind of research. We are operating that in 2 countries, France and Switzerland. Has anybody operates anything which is between 2 states inside the United States here? I'm thinking maybe waterworks or some power plants or dams or even bridges between 2 states which are governed by some federal regulation. In our case, we have to live with 2 countries. We are having an installation with over 100 million components just for this machine in a 17 miles circular tunnel, 330 feet below the surface. And when everything is operating properly, we are accelerating the particles to the 99.9999999, it's usually up to the 7 nines, speed of light, and the particles are turning 11,000 times in a second, and they're creating 40 million events in every second. So when we are playing the lottery, in every second we can see if we have a winner or not. And the installation is roughly $10 billion. If I'm putting that installation into scale, probably instead of Geneva, you are more familiar with this view when I'm overlaying it over Manhattan. How large is the structure when we are having? But I have the impression I have much more people probably around from the region, and let's see how it fits around Greenville. So this is the infrastructure that we are operating with help of Hexagon EAM. The infrastructure is the place of the absolutes. We are having the most powerful operational magnets in the physics world. Each of these magnets has a field of, again, 8 Tesla. Nobody can put into the map what is 8 Tesla. But if I'm saying if you take a small fridge magnet and you have to squeeze 200,000 on the same fridge, then you will reach the same energy. We are accelerating particles, but we only want to accelerate our particles, so we have to take away everything else, and we are creating the highest vacuum in the universe. This is about 100 times cleaner than the space between the Earth and the Moon, or at least 10 times cleaner than the outer space in the solar system. Just to ensure that only those things are in what we want to put in. And we are doing that very cold. We are using a superconducting infrastructure where the operating temperature is 1.8 Kelvin, roughly 272 Celsius minus, or minus 457 Fahrenheit. That's the operating temperature. And all these things are together to provide energy and collisions for 4 large detectors. You can see in the scale, we are speaking about a structure which is roughly 80 feet tall, 150 feet long. And you can see certain tiny dots, like here on the side or here on the bottom, which is corresponding to physicists in scale. So this is our infrastructure, which contains a wide variety of assets. We are having the machine with all the components in it. We have all the electrical supplies, cooling, ventilation, to be able to operate it. We are having an electrical need of 200 megawatt punctually when we are in the machine, which is corresponding to a single block of a normal nuclear power plant. And because we have 10,000 people on the site, we are operating a little city. We are having our own fire brigade, own safety services. We are operating medical service. We have the largest hotel complex in the region of Geneva. And all these things are appearing as assets with the corresponding maintenance work orders, the corresponding repairs, and the whole history together. And of course, when you are operating those things, you have plenty of other services which are related to Hexagon, like we are operating our own car rental facility for our visiting scientists, which is an integrating functionality in the system. You see lots of buildings. We are having roughly 6 million square feet of office space available. Over 6,000 parkings, and inside our facilities, we are operating 50 miles of road. So all these things are generating large amount of actions and assets. If you look at the numbers from last year, we have roughly 3.1 million equipment in total, split between assets, positions, and system in EAM. And these are relating to a large variety of classes and categories. In an average year, we have 350,000 work orders executed and roughly 1 million checklist item ticked. Of course, for all these operations in these parts, we have roughly 100,000 references and about 150,000 transactions on parts, with 3,600 users, and our proudest number is the 0 customization of the system. Our aim is to go digital, and as you can see in the timeline, we started relatively early this journey. We've been through the whole line, starting from Rapier R5 until Hexagon. And our real experience and message, you have the digital data, and the data stays. The software can change at any moment. You will care about your data and how this data is collected and how it's used, especially when we are speaking about long life cycles. In case of the LHC was designed at the beginning of the 1990s, approved in 1994, and started operation in 2008. And it will finish operation about 2040. So you have an installation which is designed and built by one generation, operated by a second, and will be dismantled by the third. So you have to ensure that your data, independently what's happening in the meantime, will be available. And to have this data, for us, really the source of the truth, the basis of our digital asset management platform is the Hexagon EAM. And as you can see, we have really the whole life cycle covered in our situation. We have start really at the design stage, when we are managing designs, managing after manufacturing. Of course, the operation of the maintenance. And at the very end of the life, we have to take care about also the disposal and the waste management. So the whole asset life cycle, and in an ideal case, is corresponding to a single asset ID for the whole life. And to be able to operate all these things together, the main thing is the connectivity which is existing around Hexagon. It's not a closed system where you just throw things in and eventually you can fish out with your rod, but it's an open system with all the connection possibilities, allows the integration of all kinds of things what you need for your daily operation. Imagine that you have ERPs because you have to purchase something or you have to invoice out. You have SCADA data which can be used afterwards for the maintenance of the different equipments, together with the different sensor data. You have to have information on specialized data, like you have calibration information, what you need for different operations on the machine. You need GIS. You see in the chart, we are a large operation spread around in a large circle, so we have to know where the things are. And in many cases, we have suppliers who are providing something or doing work for us, and we have to access their data and have their data in our system. When I start a beginning of a life of a physical asset after the design is really the manufacturing. And for us, the first time when an asset is getting alive is when the manufacturing starts. It could be at our facility, it could be a supplier's facility, or it could be a purchase from outside, but that's the moment when an asset will be registered, and it will have that asset ID which will carry the whole lifetime. And the data is registered, of course, right away. It can be the normal EAM interface, it could be a mobile device, it could be some kiosks, or it could be even, unfortunately, Excel imports. But all these things are necessary to have the data. And the progress of the different activities happening with a manufactured item, it's going through in the different stages with the help of the EAM in the form of work orders. And then we are providing the corresponding reports afterwards. If I'm translating this vision to the vocabulary that you all know very well, we are using equipment configurations, where we really define how something should be put together. This equipment configuration contains a standard work orders describing the different steps required in the manufacturing and quality insurance. We are using enormous amount of checklists because they are providing extremely good structured data. Somebody can say it's 5 or tick, instead of having a comment, it looks good for me, but you can never ever use again. And unfortunately, if you're doing something, you eventually have mistakes, so you have to follow the nonconformities and ensure that they are all solved before you are going to the next stage. When the asset is built and installed, all the maintenance activities are followed in EAM, including the subcontracted maintenance. I said we have roughly 10,000 people on the site. From that, it's about 3,600 are our employees, and we have roughly 2,000 contractors on site. The contractors can change, but the important thing that we have their data, and this is why we made the crucial decision that the contractors can directly enter data into EAM. Of course, we have the corresponding department security rules, filters to ensure that they only have access to that data what they need. But in this case, we can ensure that the data entry is guaranteed. And it's very important that to do that, we have to have it as simple as possible for the contractors. So we are having something which is useful without being installed anywhere. And we also have a very, very strong policy for the bring your own device. You know your contractors, they probably bring their own phone, tablet, because that contains their own softwares and own tools. But at the same time, they have to use our things. And this could be a wide variety of platforms. It could be Android, it could be iOS, could be Windows, could be practically anything. So in the maintenance, we are using very, very heavily PM schedules and maintenance routes. In many cases, we are generating the equipment in the routes corresponding to either the physical location or really the equipment structure. We are grouping things into projects and using heavily Gantt diagrams for the organization of the work. The checklist, as I highlighted earlier, having a very important role, and also the follow-up of the warranties, because you never ever want to be in a situation when you pay for something what should be your supplier's responsibility. As we spread around, we need the GIS heavily, and I was very happy to see yesterday's presentation where we got the confirmation that we are having the same approach, that we have our ArcGIS, we have our Hexagon EAM, and we have a synchronization for the GIS which is sitting outside both and communicating with the interfaces to ensure that we have synchronized data between the two worlds. We are heavily using the case management, practically in form of operational logbooks, and from the cases, the creation of follow-up work orders playing a big role. And because every data should be entered also by the contractors, the contract management is used for the billing and the payments to ensure that everybody gets paid for that what they've done. And to do that, for most of our users and also for the contractors, we are using a tool called EAM Lite, which is our own development. Now it's open source, and it provides a simplified, lightweight interface for the most commonly used functionalities of the Hexagon EAM. This is a web application, so you don't have to deploy. It's online, and it can be used on any device where you have a browser available. The EAM Lite allowed us to start very, very, very heavily to use the checklist. In the past, we had technicians running around with folders where they made some notes. They eventually had paper checklists which have been signed and scanned at the end of the workday and then attached to some digital folders corresponding to the equipment, and nobody ever looked back what has happened with them. With the checklist, we have the structured data, which is right away available for the managers, and they can say, even during the completion, if something is going wrong. They can have even on the field marked if something needs a follow-up and need new work order. And this is very, very heavily put together with our PMs and even with the normal work orders. And as I said, last year we had slightly more than 1 million checklist entries recorded in the system. Hexagon EAM is open. We have the possibility of connection, so we are connecting very heavily with SCADA and IoT. In the past, most of the PM maintenance was based on time. And we had lots of equipment which are having usage very unusually concentrated times, like imagine elevators which are not moving for 6 months or even 8 months, and then they have a period when they are literally running 24/7. Or we have cranes which are not even having the minimum amount of movement expected by the manufacturer prescription. So we had to find a way to have the data which is corresponding to the real usage. With that, we can minimize the number of maintenances taking into the risk, and to ensure that we have the proper data. And the proper data now, it's coming in 2 ways to our system. We are using an industrial network which is called the LoRa, and that allows to communicate very small amount of data with very little energy, so you can have a device which can run for years without changing a battery. And for more modern devices, we are using the LTE from the mobile providers to have a network communication, which is in our case also available in our underground tunnel system completely. We are also start to use more and more smart sensors. This is an example in a collaboration with ABB. They are having sensors which are connected to their electric motors. And these sensors are sending data to their cloud through our Wi-Fi network, but we can recuperate and use the data concerning vibration, temperature, energy consumption to be used in the maintenance and the supervision of these equipment. And also, we have the possibility in the future to have more data, because we are a relatively small user compared to the whole ABB fleet, but we will have the possibility to see how the same type of motors, for example, behaving at other customers under different circumstances, and then can help to optimize their usage for us. If I have a work order, and we heard it in the previous presentation, and you don't have a part on it, it's not really a maintenance. So we have storage. We have roughly 100,000 part references. Some stores are a small cupboard. Other stores are in the size of a football field. And all these things should be managed properly. Because you know, the biggest risk on any store is the incorrect inventory. If you don't know, if you can believe the list that I have 2 pieces of that, or you have no idea if I have 2, but where? And for that, for us, the move was towards the self-service. EAM has a very, very powerful stock management solution, which is very heavily concentrated for the situations when you have a storekeeper who is the protector of the stock and who can ensure that everything which is coming in and going out properly recorded. But in many cases, either you don't have the possibility to have a store manager, or you are operating 24/7 and you are not expecting that such storage locations will be manned for 24/7. So the self-service is becoming a key to ensure that the correct part can be very easily attached to the corresponding work order. And for that, we have a self-service solution. We are calling it the EAM kiosk, which is also based on our open source web service hub, which is providing an easy interface, really like in a self-service checkout in the shop. Here you are not starting with your Fidelity card, we are starting with your employee card. You are scanning the part that you are taking, and you are selecting the work order from the list of those work orders which are assigned to you. And it's done. And this is the minimum amount of effort. It could be done on a kiosk, or even it could be done with the phone of the technician who is standing between the shelves and picks one item what he needs for the maintenance. Unfortunately, this interface is not open source. But in EAM Lite, we have the minimum functionality to allow the technicians to have a part issue or return to a specific activity to a work order. So this can eventually already simplify the self-service approach of the management of the parts. And if I'm looking a bit towards the end of the lifetime, we are a nuclear facility, so we have certain regulations concerning that we have to treat potentially radioactive things. And also for that, the asset inventory and the source of the truth is EAM. We have the special agreement with our local regulators from Switzerland and France who are accepting that the EAM is a close enough system but could be used as reference, and we don't have to produce any other special documentation on the side. They just believe what is on the asset history corresponding with the verification and measurement work orders from the radio protection technicians to ensure that everything is corresponding to the rules. And this is again something which is built around our web service hub. Of course, we would like to go further. We would like to go to towards the 3D. We would like to integrate our existing things with the designs, with the reality, and with the upcoming things. And we are very heavily concentrating now on the 3D navigation and the visualization. We have two main domains where this plays an important role. The first is the installation. We are having a large installation, and sometimes we have to add new things, say maybe twice a year or during the shutdown even more often, and we have to ensure that what we have to put in, it will fit in. And this is why we have to take our digital models, the scans, the panorama photos to ensure that we can do the installation. And the second usage, when we have to plan an intervention, the machine is close to the technicians, so we have to have a way to prepare them what is the simplest and the most efficient way to do the intervention and get there where they have to do the intervention. And for that we have digital twins. This is an example when we have a radiation worker. So this is a little recording of a preparation for a radiation worker who should. Okay. So we have a problem with an element in our accelerator, and we have to send a radiation worker into the zone. So we are using our digital twin with the existing measurement data of radiation of the different elements. And you see how the color of the character is changing, showing the potential exposure based on the data that we are having of the corresponding assets in the digital twin. We have the panorama pictures, so we can have a look what's happening there exactly, and you see in the middle the radiation sign that this is an equipment which is expected to be having a radiation risk. And when we know that this is the place where we have to make our work, we can mark in the 3D model what will be the zone of intervention. They know that it will be a work which is eventually creating dust, so we will need a special vacuum cleaner which can collect the potentially radioactive dust. We can create the request for the intervention, and then we can mark the location for this. And then we can see, because it's a long tunnel, how is the fastest way to get out from our technician to the next exit, which is about 3.5 miles from the intervention location. In the reality, our technicians are using bikes in the tunnel instead of walking to get out at the right place. So, to summarize, for us, Hexagon EAM is really the center of our digital asset lifecycle. It's really proven a highly configurable tool, scalable and open for all kinds of integrations what we need. Really, this is the main part of all the engineering processes, and we are really hoping to continue and expand the further usage of the EAM to the organization. So, thank you for your attention, and don't forget, at 2 o'clock, you can hear much more about EAM Lite and all the open source components that we are having.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter, for a wonderful session. We've got a few questions here. So Peter, Charles Peters has asked, how many people are dedicated to asset management administration at CERN?
To asset management administration, you asked about the service who is operating EAM for CERN. We are speaking about roughly a team of 13 people who takes care of about 3,000 users in a year.
And then there was a follow-up question by Jamie Hobar, which is a similar question, and she is asking, how many system administrators does CERN have to manage EAM?
We have 3 system administrators, and what we are doing, we are having so-called local administrators who, after the proper training, can help their local users and have certain configurations inside their organic units, like, say, giving access rights to somebody or eventually changing limited workflows and providing the first level of help if somebody needs something in the usage of the EAM.
Fantastic. Someone has asked, what other Hexagon solutions do you see integrating with EAM in the future?
Oh, okay. Kevin, can you close your ears for the moment? Once upon a time, we foreseen that we are integrating Infor-LN with Infor-OS together with Infor-EAM. But now we are hoping that maybe this kind of things will be done in the future with the Data Bridge Pro to have the same level of connectivity what we hope between the systems.
Fantastic. Next question we have is, why did you create EAM Lite instead of using one of the other existing mobile applications?
The reason was coming from 2 sides. The first, we wanted to have something which doesn't require installation. As we have this very strong policy of bring your own device also for the contractors, and if you ever try to have any other application to be installed of any of your contractors' device, probably you are still waiting for the answer and the approval from their IT. That was the first thing. And second thing, we looked for a solution which will be really customized to our need. And because we are having our own document management system, the EAM Lite was the way to ensure that we can have the connection to that.
Fantastic. Next question by Jamie Hobar is EAM Lite available on Windows or just Android or iOS?
On anything which is able to run a modern browser.
Fantastic. Next question is, are you pre-populating parts based on the work orders that could have store location information to make the checkout easier?
Yes, in our kiosk application, you have the possibility, if the work order has a material list, we can pre-populate the pick list, and then it will be just a single click to approve. These are the parts that I'm taking for this work order.
Fantastic. Last question I have is by Jackie Harrison. What technology are you planning to add next?
That's a very good question. We have plenty of nice idea coming up. Probably the next step would be to move fully towards on the backend side, the new web services arrived with version 12 of the EAM. Because currently what we are having, it's a system which is based on the old web services, providing backwards compatibility to on-premise installation even before 12.0. And that would eventually make the application even more faster for the users.
Thank you. Well, that is all the questions I have in CVent. I want to give one last opportunity on the floor.
Oh, sorry. I have one more slide. Okay, this is the enlarged picture of the 200 Swiss franc banknote released in 2019 by the Swiss National Bank. And as you can see, this is corresponding quite a bit to a particle detector having a particle event at CERN. And this is really one thing which makes us extremely proud that our work is considered as important for Switzerland that we can even end up on a banknote.